Hey guys, welcome to Flatirons Online. We're in a series called The Perfect Life. We're going to take a look and see what Jesus has to say about how this whole thing can work. So if you have any questions, reach out to us at flatironschurch.com, or you can find us on social media. Thanks, guys.
Good morning, Flatirons. Great to see you here. Let's stand together. Let's sing and worship this morning. Come on. Fear is trembling. Death has lost its sting. At the sound of your name, love is shining. Courage comes to life at the sound of your name. In your name, in your name, we have overcome. In your name, dark was your fault, still your love fought for me. You've been so, so good to me. Yes, you have. When I found my worth, you paid it all for me. You've been so, so kind to me. Oh, oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Do you believe it? There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah, I need you, God, you're everything to worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever say, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. You are holy, there is no one like you, there is none bless the name above every other name. There's no one like you. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. You're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. We're singing holy. There is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. It's our prayer.
Flatirons, pray with me. God, I am thankful that you are good. God, that you are a perfect Father. God, I'm thankful that you say that you're with us and that you're for us. God, I pray that whatever we brought into this room with us, God, wherever we are in life, whether that is desperate and struggling and barely making it, or God, whether we're on cloud 9 or whether we're somewhere in between, I pray that you would meet each and every one of us exactly where we are at today in this moment. God, please teach us something about your son, Jesus. Give us something to hold on to so when we leave this place, God, that it would change the way we interact with our families and the people that we love the most. God, we love you and we need you. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Go hi and say hi to the folks around you, and then you can take your seat. Awesome. I'm Lindsay, and I work as the student director here at the Lafayette campus. I'm excited that you're here today, and if you are watching online, thanks for joining us. I have just a few announcements. The first is that our students are headed to winter camp in just a few months. And what those weekends are all about are giving your student an opportunity to experience what authentic community really looks like, to build some friendships, and to grow in their relationship with Jesus. And in addition to that, we also have a ton of fun. We get to go snow tubing, and we have a giant dodgeball tournament and midnight dance parties, and it's an absolute blast. So Snowbound is for middle schoolers. That is January 17th through the 19th. And then High Altitude is for high school students. That is gonna be February 7th through the 9th. Parents, if you have been wondering what to get your kid for Christmas this year, camp is it. You don't want them to miss out on a weekend like this. So you can register online now through the website. And then if you have questions or if you need more information about scholarships, you can email students@flatirons.church.com. I really hope we get to see your middle schooler or your high schooler there with us. Next, one of the greatest privileges of our church is getting to partner with Sister Carmen. They are an amazing organization that helps look after Lafayette and the surrounding community. And so today we are collecting turkeys and gift cards and cash to help our neighbors have a Thanksgiving to remember. The Sister Carmen team is here today. They are out in the lobby if you want to meet them. And then Flatirons, we just wanted to say thank you for always being such a generous and a giving community. It is one of my favorite things about this place. My last announcement is specifically for young adults. We are hosting a young adult gathering this Thursday, November 21st, from 6 to 8 p.m. In the West End here at the Lafayette campus. And we have invited all of our young adult groups to that, but here's what I want you to know. Even if you are not in a group, but you are between the ages of 18 and 30, you are invited to join us. Young adults, we want to say that we see you, that we're listening. We know that you want a place to call your own. And so come have dinner with us and get to connect with some other young adults that call this place home. The groups team has asked that we please register online for that because we would like to feed you. And we want to make sure that there's enough food for everybody. And so you can use the link flatirons.church.com/YA gathering. I'll be there, and I really hope I get to see you. Zach wanted me to pass along that last week at the 11 o'clock service, he made a mistake and he missed the opportunity to honor the veterans of our church. And so I would really like to take this chance to tell you how much we really do love and appreciate your service to this country. And so veterans, if you are comfortable, would you please stand? And Flatirons, would you help me honor these men and women? Thank you for your service. Last week, Ben kicked off this brand new series all about family. And I know that when we hear that word, that brings up a ton of different reactions and emotions and ideas about what family is or what it should be. And we know that family is not always easy, but I think sometimes we also wonder, was it really meant to be this hard? And that is what this next song that the band has for us is all about. So sit back and check this out.
Up to meet you and tell you I'm sorry. You don't know how lovely you are. I had to find you and tell you I need you and tell you I set you apart. You tell me your secrets and ask me your questions. Oh, let's go back to the start. Running in circles science supply. Nobody said it was easy. Oh, it's such a shame for us to part. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be this hard. Oh, take me back to the start. I was just guessing at numbers and figures, pulling the puzzles apart. Questions of science, science and progress do not speak as loud as my heart. Tell me you love me, come back and harm me. Oh, and I'll rush to this thought, running in circles and chasing our tails. Oh, coming back as we are. Nobody said it was easy. Oh, it's such a shame for us to part. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be so hard. I'm going back to the start.
All right. An oldie but a goodie, Coldplay. I was actually curious because I was listening to it yesterday. I'm like, this song is already a classic already. How did it become a classic so fast? So I looked it up to see when it came out. That song came out 17 years ago. This just feels crazy. I mean, if you do the math, I was 17 years old when that thing came out. It's weird. Makes sense, too, though, because I still remember sitting around a Walkman in a 15-passenger van on some trip with headphone splitters, listening to that album with a couple people, right, and being like, this guy gets us. High school's so hard. It's never going to be easy. So... Anyway, hi and welcome. My name is Ben. I'm the teaching pastor here. Very glad you're here, as always. If you're here for the first time, special welcome. Glad you're here. Today, I want to jump right into what we're talking about. I don't want to waste any time because we're in the middle of this series called The Perfect Life. All right, this Perfect Life series is all about relationships, and specifically, it's all about family. All right, we'll spend a lot of time talking about marriage and parenting, stuff like that. Do want to say at the very top of this thing, the series is not a wash if you are not married and or don't have kids, because basically the series is about how to have great relationships. All right, the principles that we're going to be talking about every single week, you can take that and apply it to any relationship that's important to you in this life. Okay, so best friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, your boss, your employees, whatever. It's not a wash, but it's a relationship series, and we spend a lot of time talking about marriage and parenting, right? We're talking about family. What we're trying to do is we're trying to set up some healthy expectations for family. In case you were not here last week, you missed it, you need reminded, whatever. What we're trying to do is remember that the perfect life is a lie. All right, the perfect life is a lie. You can stop comparing yourself or your family to this expectation of perfection because it doesn't exist. There's no perfect marriage, no perfect couple, no perfect kids. There's no perfect family, and that's okay. All right, our problem is not that our families aren't perfect. Our problem is that we expected them to be. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of eliminate unhealthy expectations and replace them with what Jesus says is true and right and best. What is Jesus' vision of a strong and healthy family? All right, one that will stand the test of time. And does Jesus' idea for family sound better than maybe what we have going on at home right now? That's what we're doing. And in order to get started right away today, I want to start by setting up the healthy expectation that family isn't easy. And no one ever said it was going to be. Jesus didn't say it was going to be easy. Family is not easy. But that's jarring to hear at first. It's confusing, it's shocking, like we don't want to hear that. I think the reason we don't want to hear that or believe that is because you and I live in a culture that is obsessed with whatever is easiest. All right, we live in an age of ease, meaning the least amount of work is best. This is what our culture values. The less work, the better. All right, as a dumb but hopefully helpful example of this. So it used to be that the easiest and best way to watch a movie was you would pay 10 or 15 bucks or whatever, and you would go to a movie theater. It used to be the only way to watch a movie, right? It was easiest and best. Eventually, this ancient thing called Blockbuster became a reality, right? Then you could go to a store and you pay $5 and you get a VHS and you can watch it in the comfort of your home. That was easier. That became the best way to watch a movie. All right? If you're young in the room and you're like, what's a VHS? Oh, man. It's a picture like an old magical movie brick. It's filled with scotch tape and stuff. It's interesting. You watch a movie on it. And now, of course, we live in the age of Netflix. I'm sure there's something else coming down the road, but right now it's Netflix. That is now the easiest way to watch a movie, and it's the best way to watch a movie. I don't need to get dressed. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to spend a ton of money. I can sit there and eat ice cream out of the tub like a slob in my underwear and watch a movie. It's the easiest, and it's the best. I don't have to raise my kids anymore even. You know, I got Steve from Blue's Clues doing that for me. He's doing a great job. He is always solving those clues. That's the new easiest way to watch a movie, and so it's the best. All right, ClickList. I talked about this last week. I'll talk about it again because this thing's gold. You got to check it out. So, you got big ClickList fans somewhere out here. Woo! So ClickList is now the easiest, best way for us to go grocery shopping as a family. All right, because Allie doesn't have to load 3 kids into the car for a guaranteed hour-and-a-half public meltdown at the grocery store anymore. You know, she doesn't have to deal with the one shopping cart with the wonky wheel, right? She doesn't have to do it. That demon-possessed shopping cart. That's like, I know you want to go straight, but we could also just go right into this old lady. She doesn't have to deal with it, right? Instead, she just makes an order on ClickList, shows up in the parking lot, someone else loads the groceries into her trunk. It's the best because it's the easiest, takes the least amount of work. I said this last week, I do mean it. I'm not out to curse all of this stuff, all right? I'm not doomsday prophet right now. I do think easiest is the best for some stuff. So I'm not saying it's all bad, but what I am saying is this. The whole life of ease, the least amount of work is best. You can't apply that rule across the board. You just can't. We already know that we can't, right? Because we know in reality, the very best things in life don't come easy, right? That's why it felt great to hold your diploma in your hand after graduation, because you had to work for the thing. You know, it felt great to buy your first house. It felt great to lose the 15 pounds. It felt great to win the state championship, not because it was easy, but in fact, because it was very hard. You had to work for it. When it comes to physical or academic or career achievements, I think we all pretty much understand that the harder you work for it, the greater the reward. But for some reason, when it comes to family, we leave it out of the equation. For some reason, I think most of us believe that family is supposed to be easy, or at the very least, family was supposed to come more naturally than it is right now. So it's almost like we just assumed that, you know, since falling in love was easy, then maybe staying in love was going to be easy too, and it's not. You know, and we thought that because making the baby was easy, and also total blast, right? Like, that's true. We thought that since making the baby was easy, raising the baby was going to be easy too, right? But it's not. Now, I'll never forget when that became reality for real in my head. We were still in the hospital with Emery after Emery was born. That's our oldest. It's like you go through the whole, nightmare of childbirth. And then after that, you get 2 days in the hospital. And it's full ride, full service. They'll bring meals to your room and they'll take the baby for a couple hours so that you can get some naps in and recover. You're surrounded by professionals, doctors and nurses, right? They can answer every question. Anytime Em did something weird, I would just be like, is this normal? And then they would take care of it and calm me down. It's great for 2 days, but then you have to leave, right? And I'll never forget that. I'm sitting there with this alien-looking 2-day-old baby girl in my arms, and we're packing our bags, and nurses and doctors are saying goodbye, and it was like the reality that the rest of raising Emery was up to me and Allie alone. The reality sunk in for the first time, and it terrified me. Now, every nurse that came in and was like, nice to meet you and good luck and goodbye, I wanted to interrupt and be like, which one of you is coming to live with us forever? I don't know how to do this. I had assumed that being a dad would come easily or come naturally, and it took 2 days for that bubble to pop. Family is not easy. See, the problem, though, is that you and I run into some roadblocks whenever you and I believe the lie that family is supposed to be easy. We run into big problems. For example, if we believe that family is supposed to be easy, we tend to freak out when it's not. For example, if you're not connecting very much with your spouse right now, the first thought isn't, you know what, we should put some more work into this thing. Now, if you think family is supposed to be easy and come naturally, then usually the first thought is is something wrong with us? And what if we aren't really made for each other? And what if we weren't supposed to get married? What if we made a mistake? Why would our minds jump to that? Well, typically it's because we assumed marriage was supposed to be easier than what we're currently experiencing. Or if parenting feels like a constant uphill battle, right? We jump to what's wrong with me as a parent? I must be a bad dad. I must be a bad mom. Or what is wrong with my kid? Why aren't we seeing eye to eye? We lose the ability to go, oh, okay, we're not seeing eye to eye because they're teenagers, right? And I used to act that way when I was a teen. Or go, oh, we're not seeing eye to eye because they're 1.5 years old. They don't know the English language yet, right? We lose the ability to do that and we jump to extremes, right? I am the worst parent in the world and I'm pretty sure I'm raising the next serial killer, right? Why do we do that? Well, it's probably because we assumed parenting was supposed to be easier than what we're currently experiencing. If we buy into the lie that family is supposed to be easy, we tend to freak out when it's not. But ultimately, when we believe that family is supposed to be easy, the most damaging result of believing in that lie is that eventually you and I stop putting the work in. And whenever we stop putting the work in, we're asking for a train wreck. If the two of you, for example, the two of you aren't committed to putting the work in every single day, day in, day out, for the rest of your lives into your marriage, then you will just drift apart. It will happen naturally, regardless of how much you love each other. You'll start to have, a lot of those nights where you're mad and she's mad and you're both pretty sure you know what you're mad about, but you don't talk about it. Just turn on the game, turn on Netflix, ignore the elephant in the room. Why? Well, because it's not worth the argument. It's not worth the work. Or your kid comes home late one night, right? Doesn't say hello, goes straight to their room, closes the door. You're pretty sure you smell alcohol on them, but you let it go. Why? Well, it's not worth the fight, right? It's not worth the work. If we think family is supposed to be easy, eventually we stop putting in the work. And anytime we do that, our homes become every man for himself environments. Every man for himself, all right? Because no one's taking care of each other anymore. So you got to go back to taking care of yourself. You got to become your own top priority again. And so if you're not finding happiness in your marriage and you're not putting the work into it, you feel like you got to go find a way to be happy by yourself. Or worse, you got to go find happiness elsewhere with someone else. If we get tired of putting the work in with our kids, we end up leaving them out there on their own to figure out this crazy world by themselves, or worse, to figure it out with a bunch of other teenagers who also feel like they're swimming in the deep end. If we stop putting the work in, our homes eventually become every man for himself. And even though we're all physically living under the same roof, in reality, we're living on these islands. And the longer that we do that, the farther apart we drift. If this sounds familiar, and if it's hitting a little too close to home for you, the question is, what's the alternative, right? Is there an alternative? And does Jesus have a better vision, a better idea of how to do family? Is there hope in what Jesus has to say? And the good news is that there is hope for your family, and Jesus does have a better idea for how to do family, but it starts with us understanding the hard but necessary truth that family isn't easy. No one ever said it was gonna be, and Jesus didn't say it was gonna be. It's not designed to be easy. Instead, you can expect family to take work. Day in, day out, every day it takes work. And Jesus said it takes a very specific kind of work, which is what I want to talk about. We can see this in kind of two different passages in the Bible that we're going to kind of cover real quickly, and then we'll apply it. We'll figure out what to do with it in our lives. The first one is this. So Jesus is walking around with his disciples, all right? This is this ragtag group of dudes who follow him everywhere. They're Jesus' best friends. And so they're walking around one day, and the disciples start arguing with each other about who the best disciple is. Right? Unfortunately, this is something that Christians still tend to do with each other. Like they argue about who the better Christian is, which is a bummer, right? So they'll say stuff like, I'm a great Christian because I read my Bible 10 times a year, And the other guy's like, well, I'm a great Christian because I support Kanye West's new album or whatever, right? That's what the disciples are doing, right? So the disciples are arguing about who is like the best Jesus follower. And so Jesus cuts them off and he huddles them together and he says this. He goes, listen, guys, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles, they lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. In other words, what Jesus says is he goes, listen, you know how greatness and leadership works in the world around you. Right? If you become great, you get authority, and you can wield that authority however you want. You can show everyone else that you're the boss by lording your greatness over other people. That hasn't changed in 2019. Right? We give a lot of authority to the people that we think are great. You become president, you get your own special plane and your own special house overnight. That's a sweet gig. If you become CEO, you can run the company however you want. You can run over people if you want. In our world, just like in Jesus's world, if you get enough power and greatness, people will stand when you enter the room and they'll pay for your meals and they'll ask for your autograph, right? Same. So Jesus calls that out, and then he says this. He goes, that's how greatness works in the world around you, but not so with you. Right? That's not how it's going to work with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first, like first place, must be your slave. Jesus says that when it comes to following him, the greatest people are actually the greatest servants. Same for your home. The greatest people in your home are the greatest servants. They sacrifice whatever it is they want in order to serve the people around them. Jesus says if you want to be the greatest in your home, you will be the most humble person in your home. And still, my gut reaction to that is like, what? It doesn't make sense in 2019. It definitely didn't make sense 2,000 years ago. It sounds illogical and it sounds backwards, but he said it. He said, if you want greatness, you will serve other people and you'll humble yourself. And then he tells us why we should do that. He says, do that just as the Son of Man, that's Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus said he came to sacrifice himself for us. And that right there, I love that verse because that verse is nuts when you remember that that's God himself speaking. All right, so God himself just said, hey, I didn't come here to lord my authority over you, even though I could if I wanted. Instead, I came here to serve you and to sacrifice myself for you. Jesus says, if you want greatness, then you'll follow his lead in that. And you will serve other people more than you serve yourself. And you will sacrifice yourself for other people. That's what Jesus said. Second passage we see this is later on, and a guy named Paul, he wrote a lot of the New Testament. He kind of picks up this idea from Jesus and he keeps running with it, and he goes into a little more detail about it, and he says this, he goes, listen, don't do anything out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Don't do anything for the sole purpose of making yourself look good, and instead, in humility, consider others better than yourselves. And each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. If we apply that verse to family, because we're in the middle of a family series, Paul just looked at you and he said, listen, treat your wife and treat your husband and treat your kids and treat your parents as if they are more important than you. Paul says your pride, your sense of importance, the sense of leadership that you feel like you've earned in your home, or the selfish desires and selfish wants, he says, put those in the back seat. Those come in last place. And then he keeps going. He echoes the reason that Jesus gave. He says we should treat people that way because that is how Jesus treated us. He says, listen, your attitude should be the same as that of Christ Jesus. They should look the same. What was Jesus' attitude? Well, being in the very nature God, he did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. It's a weird verse. What does that mean? Well, essentially, that verse is all about what we're about to celebrate in a few weeks with Christmas. It means that even though Jesus is the Son of God, Jesus chose to let go of that status and power and privilege that came with that. What did he do instead? Well, he made himself nothing, taking on the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. He allowed himself to be born into this world so that he could serve us. And then Paul wraps it up. And he says, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross. Basically, to take all of what Paul just said and summarize it, he said, not only did Jesus come to serve us, but he came to sacrifice himself for us. And then Paul says, be like that. Be that kind of person. Paul and Jesus both say, if you want a shot at great relationships, including a great family, there's still really only one road to get there. It's the same road that Jesus took to make sure that we have a great relationship with him. It's the road of sacrifice. Paul and Jesus both say that family takes sacrifice. It's a loaded word, though, sacrifice. And so what kind of sacrifice are we talking about? Because I think it's easy for us to jump to extreme hypotheticals of like having to die for your family. So some of us might be going like, well, yeah, I would sacrifice myself for my family. I would jump in front of a bullet for the people I love. Okay, me too, all right? But chances are you and I are not going to have to do that today, or hopefully probably ever. And so again, what kind of sacrifice are Paul and Jesus talking about in these verses? Well, if you look at it, it can be summarized by this. Sacrifice means what your family needs from you should become more important than whatever you selfishly want for yourself. The kind of sacrifice they're talking about is what your family needs is more important than what you want. See, according to Jesus, and also just according to logic, if you think about it, the solution for a home where everyone is living on an island and no one is putting in the work and it's every man for himself, the solution to that is sacrifice. You sacrifice yourself. You put what your family needs in front of what you selfishly want. Jesus says that there actually is still hope for your family. It just might look a little backwards. It comes with sacrifice. It means, for example, that when you get home from work after a really long and exhausting day at work, we have to remember that our work isn't done that day. In fact, our most important work is waiting for us inside the house. So it looks like walking through the front door after work, thinking to yourself, what does my wife need from me? What does my husband need from me? What do my kids need from me? How can I serve these people? It's that kind of sacrifice. And I know we're tired, right? And I know we're stressed, and I know we're sick, and I know that if you're a stay-at-home parent and you've been with the kids all day long, I know it gets claustrophobic and cabin fevery, and so I know we just want to zone out and watch football, right? And I know that we would just want to keep postponing the hard but necessary conversation we need to have with our spouse. I know we want to check out of reality and just scroll through Instagram. I get that, me too. After a long day of work or a long day at home, we convince ourselves we deserve a break. I get it, me too. I know that we want easy, but family is not easy, and it's never gonna be. And the people who live in our homes, they're counting on us. They need us. And what they need from us should be more important than what we want for ourselves, right? And for the parents in the room, our kids need us, right? They do. They need us to coach them. They need us to discipline them and lead them. They need us to be genuinely curious about how their day went. They need us to tell them who they are, right? Especially when they're young. Got to tell them that you're strong, you're courageous, you're beautiful, you're loved. They need us to challenge them to grow. They need us to be gracious when they screw up. They also just need us to get on the floor and play Candyland or whatever for the millionth time with them, right? They need us. And what our kids need from us should be more important than what we want, right? For the husbands in the room, our wives need us, man. They do. They need our encouragement. They need us to listen. They need us to prove with our actions that we're invested. They also need to have a good laugh with us every now and then, right? Just to be reminded, like, I don't just love you, like I like you. I like your company. I like being around you. Go on a date or turn off the TV and talk, or watch the TV, but sit on the same couch for the first time in weeks, right? Our wives need us, and what they need from us should be more important than what we want. Right? And then for the wives in the room, your husbands need you, right? Really, at the end of the day, we just need to know you got our back, Right? The thing with men is that typically we can carry some pretty heavy loads as long as we know come hell or high water, you're with us and you support us. Sometimes we need to be told that. Sometimes we need to know if we're doing a good job of leading our homes or not. Your husband needs you, and what your husband needs should be more important than what you want, right? At the end of the day, what are Paul and Jesus getting at? What is the hope for a family that's been isolated? Well, at the end of the day, they say the hope is in this. What does your family need? They need you, right? And they need all of you. They need everything that's in the tank. They need us to put the work in. They need us to sacrifice ourselves on their behalf, because family takes sacrifice, and what your family needs is more important than what you want. And if we practice that, like if everyone in your home practices that, you start to discover over time, it's actually not as illogical and backwards as it sounds at first. Because if everyone is walking towards that together, then the whole every man for himself thing begins to disappear. And all of the little islands that we're living on begin to drift back together. And we wind up happier than we could have been on our own. Because if everyone in the family is treating everyone else's needs as more important than their own, it means that in the end, everyone's needs are being met. Because it means that you, as a husband, your top priority is what your wife needs from you. And at the same time, your wife's top priority is what you need from her. It means that no one is on an island. It means that no one is hung out to dry. Instead, you are taking care of everyone else, and everyone else is taking care of you. Jesus says that if we want the best shot at having a great family, one that is strong and healthy and will stand the test of time, he says family takes sacrifice. What your family needs is more important than what you want. And so if we're willing to follow Jesus' lead on that one, and if we're willing to give the sacrifice thing a shot, then here's our challenge, all right, for this week. It's simple. It's this. What is one thing you could sacrifice for your family? What I mean by that is this week, what is one thing you do basically because you want to, but you're pretty sure it's getting in the way of what your family needs from you? The challenge is, would you simply be willing to not do that thing this week and give it a try? For example, here's what it's going to look like for me. All right, so for me personally, on a typical evening when I get home and we finally get all 3 kids into bed and it's finally quiet for the first time out of my entire day, what I want it to stay quiet. I want to be done. All right, no more conversations and no more discussions and no more decisions to be made. Let's just turn on the TV and zone out. That's all I want, right? I just want to shout at people for their dumb evaluations on Shark Tank. I love spending an evening that way. So that's what I want to do. At the same time, though, poor Allie has been home alone with the kids all day long. So in that same moment when we get the kids to bed, it's usually her first chance all day to have an actual conversation with an actual adult. And so if I just do what I want, turn on the TV and shut down, I'm leaving Allie out there on her own. So that's my thing. All right, this week I'm not going to turn on the TV when we get the kids down. It might sound simple, might sound dumb, but I think it could be good for our family. I'm not going to turn the TV on unless Allie wants to watch something too. And even if she does want to watch something too, we're not going to turn it on until we have a conversation. Like, how was your day? And how has my day been? That's mine. What's yours? This week, what is one sacrifice you could make for your family? You know, maybe it's choosing to just do it, man. Tackle the hard but necessary conversation you need to have with your spouse instead of doing what you want to do, right? Which is postpone it one more day and one more week. Maybe it looks like not going out with your buddies and not working on the pet project in the garage. Instead, take your wife on a date. Maybe it looks like not retreating into social media and checking out of reality, and instead just take the kids to the park again. Right? I don't know what it could look like for you, but the chances are you pretty much already know what it is. Right? The thing that you should probably try sacrificing this week is the thing that's in your head right now, and you're telling yourself, like, no, not that one. I like that one. Really, let's find something else to sacrifice. If that's you, lean into it. All right? What is one thing you could sacrifice for your family this week? Family is not easy. No one ever said it was going to be. Jesus never said it was going to be. But if we want it to work, it's going to take work. Day in, day out for the rest of our lives. And it's going to take sacrifice. And Jesus says that sacrifices like this are worth it. And that's actually how I want to end this thing today, right now. Because Jesus did say that on the other side of sacrifice, you and I can expect healthier relationships. We can expect better relationships, great relationships. I trust Jesus when he says that, because Jesus put his money where his mouth is. He knew that to be true, and so he sacrificed himself for us so that you and I could have a great relationship with our God. If there's anyone to trust when it comes to this whole sacrifice thing, in my opinion, it's Jesus. And so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna end by taking communion. All right? Communion is our way of hitting pause in the middle of a hectic week and a hectic life, kind of hit pause, and we remember that Jesus wants good for us. He has always wanted good for us, and he still wants good for us. When he says something like sacrifice yourself for your families, it's because he wants good for you and good for your families and good for your kids and spouses. And he proved it, and he made it possible by sacrificing himself for us on a cross. And so right now, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pray. All right, and then we're going to pass out communion. You're going to take communion. When you're done, just stand and sing. And then we're going to march out the doors, back into life, back into our homes, hopefully willing to take Jesus at his word, ready to sacrifice ourselves for our families, just like Jesus did for us. I'm going to pray. All right, God, first of all, I thank you so much for your son, Jesus Christ. God, I thank you for the sacrifice he made for us. From day one, the second that he was born into this world, his eyes were set on the cross. His eyes were set on serving us by sacrificing himself. And because of that sacrifice that he made on the cross, we get to enjoy all these great things. Grace, we get to enjoy mercy. We get to enjoy forgiveness. We get to enjoy an actual good, great relationship with you. And it's all made possible because of the sacrifice that your son made for us. God, when we take communion here in a few seconds, that's what we're remembering, and that's what we're thankful for. God, on top of that, I do thank you for the families in this room, the many different kinds of families we have in here, the marriages and second marriages and the divorces and the blended families and the hurting families. God, I thank you for the families in this room. God, the reality is that family is not easy. We already know that. We might have expected it to be easy, expected it to come more naturally, but it's just not. It takes work. God, I pray that this week you make the backwards truth that serving other people will serve us well. God, make that backwards truth just stick in our hearts and our minds. Give us the wisdom and discernment to figure out what it is in our lives that we could sacrifice to the benefit of our family, and then give us the strength and courage to actually go and sacrifice it. God, I pray that you follow through on your word, which you always do, and show that that will be a good thing for our families. But ultimately, God, at the end of the day, the only reason we're standing up here and talking about you in the first place is because of what your son did for us. As we take communion, that's what we remember, and that's what we're thankful for. And it's in his holy name that I pray right now, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
See the Father, hopeful as
to